I am fascinated by a period of musical history that came to be known as the British folk revival of the 1960s. Players such as Davey Graham, John Renbourn, Bert Jansch, Martin Carthy and others were discovering a whole new voice for the steel string guitar based on folk and blues music. One thing I realised recently was that John and Bert and Davey and everybody else used a lot of different guitars throughout their career, but there was one man who has used a single musical voice since the 1960s, and that is Wizz Jones.
Well, all I'm doing is doing what I want to do. I'm only interested in playing the guitar and travelling.
Wizz Jones will always be associated with one guitar, his beautiful 1963 Epiphone Texan.
Passing of the years, I love you more and more. Think of you when I am far away. Your honey-coloured skin, laughter in your eyes, the way you move your body when the music starts to play.
I recently had the opportunity to sit down and interview Wizz for my podcast Life on the Fretboard for Fretboard Journal. This is what he had to say about that guitar. You are most associated with a particularly beautiful guitar, an old Epiphone Texan. Tell me about that instrument, Wizz.
Well, that's a typical Wizz Jones story. I played for several years. I graduated from my 10 guinea special, and for about 20 quid I traded in an old Hofner Zenith I had for 10 quid, and I got this guitar, and it was a hand-built English guitar. It had been used in a band, I think, and it was, by today's standard, it was nothing, but it was quite an interesting guitar. It's made by a guy called George Foley up in Liverpool somewhere. He made mandolins. It was called the La Foley, and it was quite interesting. There's a big story about it on my website. It was a quite idiosyncratic sort of guitar, very unusual. I thrashed away on that, playing with Pete Stanley for years, but it was really worn out. You know, I mean, I'd been to Morocco with it, and it split open, and I cut my belt up and stuck it over the cracks with glue and patched it up, tried to make it work. So I was quite famous around the folk clubs for this crappy old guitar, but I did manage to get a sound out of it, you know. And I've got to know a much younger singer, 7 years younger than me, that was hanging around, Ralph McTell, as I called him, McTell. His name was Ralph May. And he kept saying to me, "You shouldn't be playing that crappy old guitar. You really must get another guitar." And I said, "Well, I can't afford another guitar. I haven't got any money. I've got 2 kids now, struggling like crazy. I can't get enough gigs to live, you know. Can't sign on. You couldn't sign on the dole in those days if you had longish hair, you know. You were an outcast. You couldn't do all that stuff. I mean, this is me being my stupid beatnik self, you know. Right. Well, why don't you go and get your hair cut then? Well, what's the problem, you know?" So he said, "Look, I've in Selma's in Charing Cross Road the other day. This was 1966. I've been playing quite a lot then, professionally, you know." He said, "I've seen this guitar in Selma's, and it's an Epiphone Texan, which is like a Gibson J45, because we all wanted a Martin, really. That's what I wanted." And he said, "Well, it's the same as a J45. I said, "What's the difference?" He said, "Well, I think it's got a slightly longer neck. It's much narrower." So he said, "I want you to just come and play it, you know." So I went in the shop, and I sat down and I played. I said, "Yeah, it's great. Really nice. I really like it, you know, lovely. How much was it?" He said, "Well, it's, new it was 144 guineas, but it was second hand, one owner. It was made in 1963, I think. This would have been 66, late 66. And it was 75 quid. I said, "Well, I haven't got 75 quid. So we went home that night and we were sitting around with some friends, and one of the other guys said, "Well, my girlfriend will lend you 75 quid and you can pay her back in instalments." I said, "I really don't want to do that." He said, "Well, you should." So she insisted. So the next day I went back and I bought it. That's how I got it. I never planned to have an Epiphone Texan because it's actually difficult to play because it's a very narrow neck. Right. Most people, if they have an Epiphone Texan of that model, they get a luthier to put an extra millimetre each side on the neck to make it a little bit wide, just a little bit wider. So it's easier to play at the first position. But anyway, that's my style. This was 1966, so I played it ever since, and it's become part of me, you know, and I get a good sound of it, and it's great. And I saw the girl once in the last, how many years is it, since 66? I don't know.
It's quite a few.
Saw her once at a club somewhere. I said, "I owe you instalments for that guitar." I said, "I've got 40 quid on me, I'll give you 40 quid. Never saw her again. So I never even paid for the fucker, you know what I mean?
The guitar that I'm holding right now, well, it's a little younger than Wizz's instrument. This is an Epiphone Texan from 1969, and it does have a lot of the characteristics that Wizz mentions in the podcast interview, including this incredibly slim neck, especially here at the first position. But the voice of this guitar is typical of the sort of guitar sounds that I grew up loving, and I wanted to share some of that with you in this video. We've got the dry, woody snap of vintage mahogany back guitar, and the warmth of a slope shoulder dreadnought. Which combines to give the player some really evocative textures. Wizz Jones is still playing around the London scene. If you get the chance, do go and see him. He is an astonishing performer and a real inspiration. Tell him I sent you, please. Say hi from me. Now, if you found this video interesting, entertaining, or even informative, please do subscribe to support my channel. Drop me a like and a comment in the bit below. It all helps a great deal. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay tuned.